Hi, and welcome to today's very special episode of the Women's Health Unwrapped podcast show. It's special because we're celebrating 2 whole years of the podcast. Now, before you say it, yes, I know, Women's Health Unwrapped only came into life in June this year, but the Live Healthy Now podcast started in October 2022, and the podcast is the same podcast. We just had a rebrand because Women's Health Unwrapped is so much more appropriate for what I'm about as a business. And I've absolutely loved these past 2 years, even though they have been challenging at times, technical wise, and the um, the work that's needed to be done to create the podcast and all of the marketing assets. But I have really loved the past 2 years because pulling together 104 episodes, this is episode 105, has given me so much. I've met the most incredible people across the world, like literally across the world, from Portland to Florida to Australia, literally in so many different places. That in itself is a privilege to find these amazing people and be connected. But I've also learned so much myself. And I'm not just saying this, but I do usually end every conversation feeling really inspired. And I often take away what I want the listener, you, to take away. And that is something that makes me think about making a change to have a positive impact on my health. And often I do put those things into practice. I've tried meditation, I've tried cold water showers. I'm saying tried. A lot of these things are now part of my wellness toolkit, pulling cards and reflecting on those. I'm trying to think even recipes, so many different things. And that's what the podcast is here to do. It's here to give you your penny drop moment about why your health matters. And I changed it to Women's Health Unwrapped because I've always been a women's health expert. But when I launched the podcast, I was a bit nervous, in all honesty, of making it women specific. So I went with Live Healthy Now because my business is called Life Now Coaching, which is all about living the best life you can now. And I know that happens when you are healthy. So it was Live Healthy Now. But I realized that as I was doing the podcast and also building the business and finding out what worked and didn't work and what I was good at, to be honest, was that I needed to focus it specifically on women. And it's about unwrapping what healthy living really means, because so many of you don't really understand what health means. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now, but this is what the podcast's here to do: help you be clear on why your health matters and give you that penny drop moment to go, oh, like cha-ching, yes, that's how I get to be happy. That's how I get to live the life I want to live, whether that involves lots of travel, a promotion, your own business, a new relationship, ending a relationship, putting more boundaries in place, having lots of energy, sleeping better, stressing less, being a great mum to your kids, whatever it is. Taking care of yourself will lead to that happening. So today's special because I'm going to play you 6 different clips from across the past 2 years. Through the conversations I've had on the podcast, I really have interacted and shared so much from amazing guest experts across the health and wellness space, and from friends as well, and real people who have found the power in taking control of their lives through their health. And this is why I want to bring you some of these today. Living healthy is kind of like an intricate individual recipe, if you like, of building what will lead to good health for you. Yes, there are foundational pillars to strong health, such as nutrition, movement, sleep, and stress. And in my framework, I have those 4 pillars plus a 5th pillar, which I think is often overlooked when we typically think about health, and that's mindset. Your view of yourself and the world around you and the thoughts you have, especially that inner dialogue up there in your mind, It's an intrinsic piece of the puzzle to building better health. So when I unwrap what healthy living really means, so you know, it's about all of these 5 pillars and more, because everything in your life impacts your health in some way. Your job, your career, your relationship with your partner, with family and friends, your finances, your purpose. It all goes together. It goes into your mind and body and creates the output. Think of yourself like the most exquisitely designed machine. Every part of the machine has a purpose for being in the machine, and it's there to work optimally in the way it was designed to work. And to do that, it needs to be run in exactly the right way with the right amount of power and fuel going into it. We as humans are this machine. To be living optimally, we need the fuel that we put in to be premium and resulting in the machine running efficiently and effectively. That's the optimal output. And when I refer to fuel like this, I'm not talking about food, although that is one part, often a big part, of what makes up the fuel that goes into your machine. But it also includes your thoughts, what you drink, the people you surround yourself with, your social media feed, your relationships, how you manage and respond to sleep and stress, the rest and recovery that you have along with the sleep, the environment you live in and what you're absorbing through the air and everything else that you come into contact with. It all wraps together to become the fuel that runs your machine, aka you. And so through the podcast, I bring you a diverse range of topics and conversations to help you realize what your health is impacted by, both positively and negatively. And so you can learn how to better support yourself to improve your health, because ultimately my business exists to help women live longer, stronger, happier lives. A key part of all of this is that I know you can't do it all. I know nobody could listen to every episode and implement something from every single one into their lives. That's not what is intended. What I aim to do is broaden your knowledge and understanding of healthy living and get you thinking about what would help you to feel and live healthier now and to improve your health in the longer term. It's about connecting with you on what would have the biggest impact if you invest your time, effort, energy, maybe money into building a new habit around that thing, so that you focus on what you need most right now, but maybe store away something that you'd like to implement but for whatever reason don't want to focus on it at the moment. So you take what you need from the podcast to help you right now, implement that, and then store the rest or share it with other people. That's a brilliant thing about podcasts. You can share what you learn and are inspired by, and maybe what you don't want to implement as a healthy habit for you, but know somebody else in your network would benefit from. You can share it with them. So remember, your wellness toolkit is exactly that, yours. You get to curate it and have in there what you need. I just want you to be informed and understand what affects your health, and that your health is always directly contributing to how you feel in your life, which leads to how fulfilled, successful, joyful, and happy you are. So, as I said, to celebrate being 2 years old or young, I'm going to share 6 clips with you. The first 3 are from the most listened to episodes across all channels that the podcast goes out onto. And then the next 3 are my personal favourite conversations. And I'm going to share with you a little bit about what I enjoyed and took from each of these 6 conversations. I hope you enjoy listening to what I think are 6 very different clips on very different topics, but with a commonality of each being about how, when you take control of your health, you get to navigate the hurdles and kinks in the road in an easier, smoother way. Because when you take care of yourself and gain all of those incredible ripple effects by feeling confident, worthy, capable, resilient, vibrant, energized, and so much more, you can support yourself through the difficult and uncertain times and know you're living with intention and that things will get better. You can find moments of joy and happiness, even as those difficult life events come your way. When you are strong, you can support yourself to navigate and move through those times. And when you are strong, you want to remain feeling that way. So even if you can't keep up your usual habits, you adjust and do the ones that work for you for where you are at that moment in your life. And know there'll be a time when you pick back up the other habits that have become a part of who you are. This is the power of taking care of yourself. This is what we've heard and learned throughout the past 2 years and 104 episodes. The first episode clip I'd love to share with you is from episode 52, How I Manifested a Life I Love with Sarah Jane Adams, who now has a new surname, Sarah Jane Burke. This is the most listened to episode overall throughout the past 2 years, and I think I know why. So many people want their life to change. They want to feel happier and more confident. And so this topic of creating a life you love, along with the concept of manifesting, really seemed to strike a chord with so many of you. I'm going to play the clip. I hope you enjoy it. So when COVID hit and you had more time for you, was it quite clear, or was it a journey to realise and actually I don't want to go back to how things used to be?
I think for me, I was so busy that I almost distracted myself. I almost distracted myself so much from was I unhappy and what was I actually unhappy about. I think I just totally kept myself busy. I think at the back of my mind, I always knew that I kind of wasn't living the life that I wanted, but I just kept going. I was just like, I just kept myself busy, kept myself ticking away. And then when COVID hit and I had to like stop and literally take a breather and be like, oh, slow down, I think the slowing down kind of took the blindfold off, and it made me actually realise that I was sort of really unhappy and I wasn't living the life that I wanted. I guess I didn't actually know the solution during COVID. I didn't know what I actually needed to change. It took me quite a while to figure out what I needed to do. As we were coming out of COVID, I guess it made me realise that, you know what it is, like, life's too short. I'm not happy with the way things are. I was approaching 30, which was, you know, the big change of your life where it's supposed to be the most exciting chapter that you're going to live. And I was sort of thinking, right, I'm coming out, we're all coming out of COVID now. The world's going to come back to some sort of normal. I'm approaching 30. Do I want to live my 30s the way I've been living my 20s or my late 20s? Absolutely not. So what do I need to do about it? And I just knew then and there, like, I needed to make some big changes. I thought for a long time I needed to fix myself, which was actually really sad. I was really unkind to myself. I know this is going to sound stupid, but I thought, oh, I need to lose a load of weight. I need to do a load of exercise. Like, I need to change myself physically. Like, I don't know why, but I instantly thought, like, oh, I need to fix myself, which I know sounds crazy now, but at the time, because I couldn't figure out the solution to the problem, I just instantly blamed me. And if I'm honest, it came to a part that actually I was just not in the right environment. I was not in the right relationship. So I made the ultimate decision to leave both of those things and completely start again before I was 30. And don't get me wrong, it was so scary. But where I am now, it was the best decision I ever did for myself. I think it's really easy to stay in what's comfortable and what you know, because the unknown is very scary. But what's that saying where if you step out your comfort zone, you tend to grow? It's like scary, but you grow. I think a lot of people worry about what other people are going to say. And I wasn't worried so much about like what my friends and family thought, because I kind of had an underlying feeling that they knew I wasn't happy and wasn't living like my best life. I think I spent so much time maybe doing things for like not filling up my own cup, like with healthy habits, and not making sure that, you know, like I was fulfilled. So when I did move back home, first and foremost, like taking that time for myself, like whether it was going to like hot yoga, whether it was just a nice little pamper session, getting back into reading, getting outside and doing my walks or doing some exercise, like stuff that just allowed me to switch off and just focus on myself, and building those healthy habits. I actually found out, I didn't find out, but I sort of put I sort of nurtured relationships that gave something back to me. And whether that was like family, friendships, I spent a lot of time with people who, you know, put their energy into me as much as I put it into them. But I'm so incredibly happy. Like, I sometimes have to pinch myself because I kind of live the life that I always dreamt about and always wanted. And I know this sounds absolutely crazy, but like, even just like having a beautiful place to go for a walk and like coming back home and, you know, having time to like cook and like do all that kind of stuff. Like, I guess like slowing my life right down and really enjoying the little things and living in the moment and being more present. Really just doing things that make me happy. Like happiness is honestly like just so important. Just making sure that you like life is too short, so you really need to make sure you're spending your time but like wisely on things
Yeah.
that make you happy.
So Sarah shared how she'd been in a long-term relationship, but realised she was like conforming almost to what society and even her family expected of her. And she decided, despite it being extremely scary, as she shared, to end that relationship and start working out who she was, who as a person like she was inside and what mattered to her and what made her happy. And I know that Sarah is continuing to put herself and her well-being first because, yes, Sarah, I see you going to bar class on your Instagram and picking up that journal and getting out for your walks. And as I said, Sarah got married earlier this year and is proof that when you take control of your life by realizing you need to be strong and healthy, things really do change in the way you want them to. And what an end to the clip with her message of doing what truly makes you happy because life is so short. The next episode is episode 50, Why Loving Yourself Really Is the Greatest Love of All, with Melissa Devesevic. What I think is so interesting about the top listened to podcasts, and this goes beyond just the three I'm sharing today, all of the top podcasts episodes are focusing on like you liking yourself and knowing that you're not enough, living how to live a life that you desire. And in this episode with Melissa, it's so beautiful as we hear her talk about self-love and respecting who you are so that you make decisions in life that are right for you and make you happy in the way you deserve.
My mom was a very old-fashioned mom, and she was all about, giving and serving others before yourself. So I never was taught self-love. It just wasn't one of those things. And through the journey that I went through and through life experiences, that's when I learned that everything else, yes, it is important, but if you don't love yourself and you don't put yourself first and value yourself, then it's just you're never going to find the true happiness that we all deserve and we all should want in life. Growing up, I was always, once again, like I was very hard on myself and I was a perfectionist. I wanted everything perfect. And I always thought it was just who I was. It wasn't until later that I learned it was because I was searching for something that I didn't even know what I was searching for. I finished for a master's degree. I had a great job. I was making good money. I was in my early 20s, and like on the outside, everybody would say, oh my God, she has it all. Like I had a boyfriend, I was in a loving relationship, but something always felt missing. And I switched jobs every 2 years. It's like I get bored of working in the same position and I want something else. I'm looking for something else. My relationships struggled. It's like something was always missing. And not until recently, I would say in the last like 3 years, where my last relationship really didn't work out and I found myself to be a single mom. I had a little girl and I was just like, I didn't hit rock bottom, but I definitely was at a point where I'm like, what is going on? Like, why can't I figure this out? I've always been into fitness and like working out, but that was another thing where, I always felt like I had to be a certain weight for me to be happy. And when I came to a point where I'm like, I do love myself just the way I am, I didn't obsess over it. I still enjoy working out and doing different things, but I go to the gym now because I truly enjoy working out and I like all the other benefits. It's not the weight. It's not like I'm obsessing over the way I look and I need to be, whatever amount of pounds just to be happy. I am in a better place. So all of that stuff is just, I feel like it's bonus, where the true worth is just me. Like I on my own am enough. That's pretty much the message is I am my own. And then everything else I have in my life to me is a bonus and I'm extremely grateful for everything else that I have. And I just want to touch base on, the purpose, yes, absolutely, finding your purpose and doing all that. But none of that is possible for people that don't believe that they're even worthy of that. And I always go back to that because that's kind of where I was. It's like I wanted one thing, but I was standing in my way of all these things. And it's just, you have to believe it. You have to believe that you are worthy of so much more. And then when you are worthy of that, then you're able to take a chance like you just explained and like I did. You took a chance at yourself and I took a chance and I took a risk by saying, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to follow a different path. And I just feel it in my bones that it is the right thing to do. And it's going to make me happy. And it is making me happy. With way less money right now. And I'm not perfect by any means. I still fall back, I have days that I, go back into old patterns and do things, but now I'm more aware of it. And I know what I do to get myself out of these patterns and I change things. Or before I wasn't aware. So you're living this life and you're just going, and you don't even know what's going on. You're not even aware of what's going on in your life or why you are the way you are, why you react the way you react.
Do I even need to say anything else? What about these quotes from Melissa? I needed to find my higher purpose, but what I really needed was to find my self-worth. I just didn't love myself in the way that I should. And once I realised that, everything in my life kind of made sense. Everything she talked about is like a masterclass in realising why you matter and why taking care of yourself is the unlock to living the great life you wish and dream of having. And in the words of the great Whitney Houston, learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And since we recorded this episode over a year ago, Melissa had a gorgeous baby boy and is further building her health and wellness coaching business, helping so many women to love themselves, which is just incredible. Now, episode 96, How to Be Healthy and Confident in Midlife Divorce with Farhana Hussain, was a brilliant conversation. I met Farhana on a photo shoot. Yeah, it was a lovely photo shoot for Good Housekeeping magazine in January. And we really clicked with our shared values and purpose to help women live a great, full, happy life. Now, Farhana is often called a real life fairy godmother by her clients because she's the UK's only divorce doula and she is revolutionising divorce support. And I love this clip where we talked about how so many women become chained like to the formalities of their divorce, which of course can lead to so many negative impacts on your overall health and well-being and happiness. In the conversation in this episode, we explored how divorce rates are rising amongst women over 45 and that the majority of divorces in the UK between ages 45 and 55 are initiated by women. Farhana wants women to be empowered in their divorce. Of course, we all accept that it can be an emotionally difficult time for all those involved, especially when there are children involved. But by taking care of your own needs first and realizing why you need to prioritize yourself, you can stay in control throughout all aspects of a divorce so that you are rebuilding your life and rising up strong and healthy to, of course, be happy. And it might be a different type of thriving whilst the divorce process itself's happening, but to thrive in a way that perhaps many of us, as you said, with the narrative we've got around divorce and separation, we've thought isn't possible, that it just has to be horrible and it's got to be tough. You want women to know that there is a way to take care of yourself and to stay healthy, even if some of the practical elements are more challenging.
Oh, absolutely. And this is really the core of my work, because people think, oh, if I've got a really great lawyer, or if I have enough money, if I have the right team around me, that actually I can move through this divorce in a successful, calm way. But the truth is that so much, and you may or may not want to hear this, your listeners may or may not want to hear this, that so much of the divorce process is out of your control. You cannot change or control how your ex is going to show up, how he's going to behave, or what he's going to want, etc. You can't control necessarily always the outcomes of certain decisions either, depending on the law or your finances, etc. But what I teach you and guide you to remember and access is the power that resides within you. How you see the divorce process, how you shift your perspective, how you respond to situations is completely in your control, even if you don't believe it is. And that is what I teach my clients through working with the body. So helping your nervous system to feel grounded and safe so that you can think clearly. Because when you can think clearly, you can make good choices, the right choices that are going to serve you and your future, that allow you to be the CEO of your life, not your lawyers, not the financial advisor, not your ex who's telling you you're not going to cope, you can't afford, and all the other limiting stories that are keeping you small. All of this, you can shift perspective on from within you when you are feeling safer and calmer. And that's where we work with the body. But I also work with the mind as well on limiting beliefs, because all these stories that have been fed to you or that you've told yourself can really stop you from making those decisions that are going to allow you to thrive. Being able to have the clarity of mind and confidence to be able to speak up to your lawyers, to your financial advisors, to your ex, with your children. So we work on limiting beliefs. We work on the body, literally with the physical body feeling safe. And we work on you having a clear vision of, the direction you want to go in your life, going forward into the next new chapter of your life.
Now to my top 3 conversations. And honestly, this is like being asked to choose your favourite child when you have 4 kids. Thankfully, I only have 1. But these 3 episodes do stand out for me for very different reasons, which I'd love to share with you. The first one is episode 22 with Kev, my husband. And the reason that I've picked this one is because this was a big thing for Kev to share his story publicly with me in the way that he did. And I just have so much admiration for him in doing that. He received so much feedback from family, friends, and even work colleagues and managers at work who didn't know what he'd experienced or the full extent of what he'd experienced. And I just take my hat off to him for doing this, because although it's hard for anyone who is struggling with life, with their self-worth, with their happiness, it's, I think, even harder for men to publicly speak out about how they feel. So take a listen to this episode clip. And that to you, did there? It was just in isolation mental health, in isolation physical health. We treat the mental health, we treat the physical health. there wasn't ever a connection made between them with the help you were getting before you met me?
No, not at all. It was, I mean, it was, at the end of the day, I went to the doctors with the mental health side. That, it was all a case of, okay, do you want medication? That's it. Well, I don't know. It was basically, I don't know, you tell me.
Yeah.
And physical health was just the old adage of, do you drink? I'll say yes. How many do you drink? 2 units, as you always do in there. Do you smoke? No. Oh, okay then. Well, this is the medication that you need to be on. And that was it. There was no sort of link of anything around that. Or actually, this is what you should be doing differently, or where it was at that point in time. And, with being blood pressure, it was nothing that was really physically showing me that I had high blood pressure. So for a lot of years, basically, I went without any sort of medication or sought help, shall we say, to reduce it. I just thought, oh, it's blood pressure. It hasn't caused me any sort of illness or anything, or affected my work or anything like that. I thought at the time, so I thought, I won't bother. And it was only until we had a fight with my father, basically, on certain illnesses, that I thought, yeah, I need to get checked out and get that under control. Now, I'd probably say at that point in time when I did start taking medication, I thought that, yeah, that's it for the rest of my life now. I'm satisfied with that's going to deal with that. And I don't need to deal with my lifestyle. I can still deal with my life, have that lifestyle what I had. And just the medication, the tablets would just take care of the blood pressure.
Answer, yeah.
That was the answer. And never really entered my mind to actually, what could I, help myself on to get off that medication? Is there anything I could do? And I think obviously the stress levels, everything around that, absolutely had a massive impact on that, and where we went, the mental health side of that. But I do think there now is based especially on what I eat. Yeah, on fresh fruit, vegetables, the food, and not, the heavily salted, pre-cooked meals or takeaways has had a big impact on that, as well as the general exercise there now, and, the runs, the gym work around that, even to the point of now, I try, and I say I do try, is to do more movement at work than I would do in the past, even to the point of taking stairs instead of escalators or lifts, walking back to a hotel now instead of, a lift back or a taxi if it's, within a mile radius. I'll happily do that now, and I understand now how that does have a massive impact on my mind, especially going to.
And this episode was part of a month of special episodes that I did with real people called Changing Your Life, Just One Step at a Time. And this episode, it really did blow up my inbox and Kev's WhatsApp and Messenger too, because as I said, Kev shared such a real story, and all of the episodes in that month were about, real people whose life, for whatever reason, was challenging and they hit a rock bottom. But they managed to create a stronger self and life by taking steps to improve their health. And Kev spoke about his struggles with imposter syndrome and the self-doubt that led him to suffer with very low self-esteem, self-worth, and depression. He shared how his overall lifestyle was contributing to all of this without him knowing it, which is very, very normal. As he began to make changes initially to his mindset through some counselling, he started to feel other changes in his mood, self-belief, and this rippled out into his entire life, making him so much more confident and happier. And he also shared his love for veggies and broccoli. Well, maybe not quite broccoli, but sorry, Kev, the broccoli isn't going anywhere. But what I loved in the clip I've just played is how we raised the topic of mental and physical health, and how so few of us, even many in the medical profession, don't think about our bodies or our health in this way as being combined. In both my health transformation story and in Kev's that we shared in this episode, making that connection between mental and physical health was something that we missed for quite some time, years, even many, many years in my story. But once we realised that connection, then that was a game changer. Knowing how our minds and bodies are intrinsically linked was something that really enabled us to accelerate the transformation. And I see this in so many other people's stories. Now, the next episode is also from that same Changing Your Life series, all about love, loss, and life, with the beautiful Kat O'Brien. And just wow, what a conversation this was. I think it will always remain one of my favourite conversations for lots of reasons. And when I was picking these top three, I realised that Kev's and Kat's were literally a week apart and part of that special series. But I wanted to include this because it is just such a standout conversation for me. Now, I'd heard Kat's story before she chatted with me in this episode, and it doesn't matter how many times I've heard it, even as I was editing this clip that I'm going to play you now, I just feel so many different things. So take a listen.
And when I left the hospital with a bag, with a pair of slippers and some underpants that I had sent him in with, that all of a sudden had no person. It was just the most earth-shattering thing I think I have ever encountered. You couldn't possibly imagine the type of grief that follows with a significant loss like that unless you've actually experienced it. Because as we go through life, we have sometimes what are in order losses, such as we might lose our grandparents or we might lose an elderly aunt or uncle. And while we have a sadness for that, depending on the relationship, it's a loss that's almost supposed to happen, if you know what I mean. We get older, we will all get older inevitably, and we will all die. So it's reasonable to expect that we will have some of those losses. This loss, I mean, John and I had only been together just over 4 years. We were each other's second time around. We had both been divorced previously. We had so many plans for the future, so many things we were going to do, so many little pots of savings go in to do this, that, and the other. And all of a sudden, none of this had any purpose. So I came home to my house and I closed the front door, and instantly the house was different, my life was different, my purpose was different. And while I was working in a full-time job and still am, everything changed in the space of those couple of hours. Didn't just lose the memories that we'd had and the person that I'd had, but I lost all of that future as well. I spent a significant amount of time really wondering and trying to establish how I could choose a way forward. It seemed at the time the loss was so great that my choices were life or death. I either in a metaphorical way follow John and just lose my interest in life, or I get back to goal setting, focusing every day on facing forward, even if just for a small period of time. And that, like any other trauma that we process, there are treatments and things that you can do to help yourself through that grief. None of them take away from the loss. None of them belittle the grief any. But I really struggled to begin with the idea of dishonouring his memory by, even to begin with, doing the smallest thing like enjoying a meal. Which might seem crazy, but when you lose the person you've shared all your meals with for the last 4 years, just enjoying your food seems like you're dishonouring their memory. I think it's to start listening to what you're telling yourself. And when you hear the things you're saying to yourself, particularly the things that are critical, question how many of those are coming from you and how many are coming from your idea of what society expects of you in your grief. Conditioned always to think, what do people think of me? What are people, I'm young, I'm not even, and actually it kept coming back, I'm not even a widow, we weren't married. People will think I'm grieving too hard for somebody I wasn't married to. People will think, if I go out, they'll wonder why I'm out already. He's only just died. And a lot of what I was telling myself was around really daft notions of what other people would think. And the whole point of all of that is what other people think doesn't matter. Not in any of our attitudes towards our health and well-being, because other people don't have to live our life. Other people can be empathetic towards us, but they cannot be in our head. They cannot be us with all of our experience and what we bring to the point in time at which we experience the trauma. So only we can process and deal with our trauma in our unique way. And the way that we do that is nobody else's business. So if my grief means that I hide inside my house for a year, then that's fine, as long as I am not losing myself as a result.
I just want to say how remarkable a lady Kat is. She is so strong, and yet she shares with vulnerability how she broke when she suddenly lost her partner, John, the love of her life, during the pandemic when he was just 46 years old. Kat shares her story so compassionately for both her partner and herself. And some of the standout pieces of gold from Kat during this conversation were how when you're grieving someone, the loss will always remain. It's the one thing in our life we can't fix. Grief is a snapshot that you will carry with you through the rest of your life. And how grief is about finding a way to have a relationship with somebody when they're not physically there, to share that relationship with you so that it's not the end, it's just an adjustment. And this for me was a real lesson. And I've got goosebumps, goose pimples now, just thinking about when Kat said this to me in the recording. And actually, I'm getting quite emotional thinking about it. This is what she does to me. If you listen, Kat, this is what you do every time. Oh, you don't even have to be talking for me to get emotional. But I lost my mum 5 years ago, and how Kat talks about grief and shares her story and what she said in what I've just shared with you there about finding a way to have a new type of relationship with somebody, and that just because they aren't physically with you doesn't mean it's the end of that relationship, has really helped me. And I know my dad listened as well, and it really helped him too. It's just something that I want so many other people to benefit from. I often share this episode with people who I think might benefit from it, who have lost somebody and are still grieving, because I know that with a little resilience and a lot of support, you can definitely find a way forward. Everything you do in keeping a healthy mind and a healthy body keeps up that resilience to deal with something traumatic when it happens in a physical way. So being well throughout our life protects you when those obstacles, challenges, hurdles, events like the loss of someone you love happen, because they will happen in our life. That's inevitable. But it's just those very small things to begin with, as Kat explained, when you are grieving, like being kind to yourself and not holding anything against yourself in terms of how you feel. That can just make such a difference to helping you move through your grief. And I loved how Kat shared about using community and finding a new community or multiple communities to support her, to strengthen her health and well-being when the time was right. So if you've not listened to this episode, please do. I really think it's such a fantastic, inspiring episode. And Kat, you are an absolute angel. Now, the final episode I'm going to share with you is from Danielle Reedy, and that was episode 95, quite a recent one, all about overcoming self-doubt and pursuing the impossible dream. Danielle chatted about a road to the Rio 2016 Olympics, where she was in the synchronized swimming team for Australia, and how her journey to get there was one of learning to overcome self-doubt and understanding your inner critic. So many women lack belief in their ability and worth, resulting in them holding themselves back only to hold on to these regrets, often throughout their lifetime. And Danielle shares how her journey of building self-worth and confidence culminated in her experience as an Olympian. And she discusses the importance of reframing challenges and choosing the hard path that aligns with your values, and why faking it until you make it isn't such a bad thing. So I wanted to share this recent episode for two reasons. Firstly, Danielle's energy. I just loved how she showed up and engaged with me. I knew this would really come across to the listener. everything she said was filled with passion and intention. And it just left me feeling inspired and lifted. And I actually remember we finished that recording. It was Friday afternoon here in early summer. And I went downstairs to Kevin Laws and I said, I've just had the most incredible conversation. And I just had a huge smile on my face. And I knew if I had that smile, others listening would too. I just think anyone who has the ability to speak that way has such a valuable gift to use and impact others. And the second reason I want to include it was because the topic of self-worth sits at the heart of everything I do, because I know that so many of you do not value yourself in the way that you should, and that we all need to value ourselves, like we heard from Melissa, to live the life we deserve and to be that best version of ourselves. And when we take care of ourselves and build strong health, we build our worth. That's how it happens. So take a listen.
She looks at me and she's like, Danielle, you could do this too. Like, why not you? And I kind of laughed. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it's no secret that I was never the best. And I'm also concussed. And I also have like a laundry list of reasons why like I would never make it. But I also had this moment. I've always kind of been a bit of an old soul and, you know, grappling with this opportunity. I realized that this is not something that happens twice in a lifetime. This will not happen again. And if I'm laying on my deathbed one day and looking back at my life and all the decisions that I made, what decision would I rather that I had made? Because of course, it scares the living daylights out of me. Of course, I'm afraid of what people are going to think of me. Of course, I'm afraid of people judging me, thinking that I'm crazy. Who are you to go and do this? But I'm more afraid of wondering what if. I'm more afraid of wondering who I could have been if I was brave enough. I'm more afraid of living a life of regret because I was scared. And even though I was so terrified of everything what people were going to say to me, I was more scared of that regret and that what if. And that little realization and decision gave me like a flame that helped me not only start to recover from my concussion because I had a reason again, but also go after this crazy, impossible, wild dream. I want people to know, like, I am not a magical human that was born like out of stardust, and like I have had to like overcome challenging things. And like I say that because for the women listening, I don't want you to separate yourself from me thinking that I have something special that you don't, because I believe that we all have this inside of ourselves. And so not only was I never the best and I was concussed and I had all of these things, but to keep in mind too, I was also coaching at the time, synchronized swimming, and some of the athletes that I coached were very talented. But because of the way that the Olympic qualification works and the pool of athletes in Canada versus Australia, like I knew some of the girls that I was coaching might not ever have an opportunity that I had. And like girls that I used to swim against might not ever have an opportunity that I had, but because me and my friend both have Australian citizenship, we have this opportunity. And so the guilt that I had to like grapple with is like, like, how did this happen? Like, how did I get this lucky? Like, how does this seem even fair? And I think sometimes we also, as women, we hold ourselves back because, especially those of us that are kind-hearted and empathic, like we see the injustices in the world and we go, well, it's not fair for everyone. So like, how dare I go after this? And that was a huge, huge thing that was like holding me back. I'm like, what are these people going to think of me? Like, who am I to do this? Like, who do you think that you are? Right. And a part of what fueled me as well was making it bigger than myself, because I had this realization that it's like, if I can do this and I feel so grateful that I've had this opportunity, how can I do something with this that is bigger than me, that is for women, that is for my sport, that is for all these humans in the world that I can positively impact? And I think about that with like the guilt that sometimes we like make ourselves feel as women. If we realize that we can, like, guilt isn't helpful unless we do something with it. But then the other side of it as well was realizing that I think when we think about taking a hard path or a hard choice, as humans, we go, this is the hard path and this is the easy path. And this is the path of least resistance and this is the path of resistance. But what I kind of made myself understand is that both paths were hard. I had to choose a path. But I had to realize, what hard did I want to live with? Did I want to live with the hard that I'm going to have to deal with people probably judging me, probably talking about me behind my back, probably saying, who does she think that she is, maybe failing? Or do I want to go down the path of hard, of wondering who I could have been and wondering what if for the rest of my life? Because sometimes I think we tell ourselves that we can take the easy path and then it'll all be fine. There's hard things that we always have to face in life. And if you realize your choice is actually between one hard and another hard, and you're going to have to live with one of the hards, but which hard do you want to live with? That was such a powerful thing for me to realize, because I was willing to deal with the heart of judgment and possible failure, so I didn't have to deal with the heart of what if. And that's the mindset shift that continues to help me in my life now.
Just a couple of quotes that I loved from this conversation. That is why I talk about the fact that I am an Olympian today. It's like the achievement of that impossible dream, because I didn't even allow myself to think that big. And I think sometimes we do that in our life too. We count ourselves out. A big thing that I had to work on rewiring is my relationship with my body and how I speak about my body. And I know so many women struggle with body confidence. And Danielle really did share some of what she struggled with and how she felt being part of that Olympic team and that sport. And then she also said, I'm just going to fake it till I make it. And it's not that I'm going to fake it and be an inauthentic human being for me, but I'm going to be the best version of myself that I wish that I could be in this moment. I'm going to embody her. And I think that's just amazing. I hope you've enjoyed this little trip down memory lane and some insights from very different conversations across the 104 podcast episodes I've published to date. But I just want to end with two final things. The first is a huge thank you to every single guest who has joined me throughout the last 2 years. I really do appreciate giving your time to me, the podcast, both of our communities, and to anyone else who may pick up the podcast at any point in the future. I love you sharing your expertise and your knowledge and experience. If you're one of my guest experts, or if you're a real life person, just thank you for being willing to be so vulnerable and, motivating for other people by sharing your real life story. And then I want to say thank you to you for listening. If you're a new listener, what an episode to join on. But if you're a regular listener, thank you for being here each week, for taking the time to connect with me, my guest, and the stories and information that I'm putting out there. And just never underestimate what is possible when you take time to support and care for yourself. And know that listening to this show is a big step in you taking that direction in the right way to build a healthier, happier life. And just one last thing, please, if you enjoy the podcast and get something from the podcast, just take a minute right now to give it a rating and a review. That really does help massively to get it pushed out to other people who haven't found us yet. Thank you for being a fan of the podcast, for being a listener or viewer of the podcast if you're over on YouTube. And I'd love to know from you, what's been one thing you've taken from the podcast and built a new, healthier habit around? Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. Sending much love, and here's to another amazing year, because I do have some fantastic conversations coming, already recorded for the next few months. I know you're going to get so much from them. So take care. Bye. Thank you so much for joining today. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please remember to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. It would be massively appreciated if you could leave a rating and review to help other women discover the podcast and build their own healthy, happy life. If you're struggling with the changes perimenopause is bringing your way and you're ready to reclaim your vitality, to embrace this new chapter of your life with confidence and joy, then why not download our free guide, 10 Ways to Feel Good Again, your perimenopausal revival guide. Inside, you'll get 10 proven ways to enhance your wellbeing and rediscover the joy of living life to the fullest. And we all want to live a great life, don't we? So download your free guide now at lifenowcoaching.uk/feel good again. The link is in the show notes. You can follow Life Now Coaching on Instagram and LinkedIn, and visit our website at lifenow.uk. All of the links are in the show description. I really hope you've enjoyed today's topic and conversation, and can't wait to have you back again next week for more tips on living healthy and happy right now. Take care.